What's up, everybody? February 7th edition of the Fightful MMA podcast. I found him, Elias Theodorou. I have found him. We had no idea where he was. Well, technically, I did know where he was, but we had to wait till he got settled, and he is now settled. Elias, what's going on? What is this, our fourth or fifth backdrop of you being somewhere else other than home?
Yes. The modern day nomad continues to reprise his role once again every Tuesday. Currently in New York. In Soho at the beautiful Orlo Hotel. Either way, I'm here to do a quick in and out event for Perk Plus. Basically a bunch of different media outlets. I did a little demonstration, a workout, and just showed off the hair.
You say Perk Plus, obviously one of your major sponsors, if not the biggest, in my opinion, biggest mainstream. I'm pretty sure it was probably an eventful day. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, definitely one of those. Basically, me and a bunch of different media types punching and kicking, and I obviously, again, showed off the hair.
Let's not lie, because if I was there, I'd probably get myself in trouble because I've been to New York. I've been to Soho. I'm adding Perk Plus into this equation right now. I'm sure there were many beautiful women there, and I know you behave yourself. That's the fact. I'm sure you were surrounded by beautiful women, and they're all staring at your hair and realizing, dude, this guy's a fighter. What's going on here?
You were not wrong, as usual, sir. So basically, another tough day in the life of Elias Theodorou. So it's a tough job, like I said, but someone's got to do it.
What's it like though when you actually put yourself in the third person, because you're living it, but when you actually go back and you're in a situation right now where you're talking to me, or when you have moments to yourself, what goes through your mind and you think to yourself, this is cool, like what's happening here?
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where with all the hard work in regards to getting to the UFC, getting to develop a brand that is yourself, having the best hair in the UFC, or as I like to say, the best hair in combat sports. I think in many ways it didn't start overnight. It took a whole progression, and eventually it got me here, and I'm starting to live the fruits of my labor in regards to, yes, it's a very fun, fulfilling job, if you want to call it that. I think career-ish, it's somewhere in between. It's me being me, and in today's economy, today's world, there's so much opportunity to kind of run with it. I think in many ways we're in a state of fake it till you make it, and I'm actually not the one that dubbed myself the best hair in MMA. It eventually was bestowed on me, but with that, I think in many ways it kind of grew into the grassroots and obvious thing that it did, and now it's official with a handsome endorsement from Perp.
No. Well, as always, and I'm saying this not from a friend, as a friend, but as a someone in the media. Congratulations, as a friend. That's awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you, sir.
That's it. I was thinking to myself in terms of getting such an endorsement, but at the same time, now your hair, it's almost like it's an insurable commodity, right? And there was a question that was asked. Right? There was a question that was asked about 2 or 3 weeks ago from a fan. I said, hey, what if Elias was 186.4? Would he cut his hair? And I was like, he can't. He's got to figure it out.
No. I'd probably lose a finger before I'd lose the hair. No, and with that being said, I'm a professional. I make weight. That's the difference. Don't put yourself in those positions and you never have to deal with it. Again, I now am blessed to be in a situation where I get paid handsomely to be a brand ambassador for a great, well-known brand. And again, it's one of those outliers in regards to it's outside of our market. It's not Tap Out. It's not any of the other brands in regards to the MMA sphere, or the original, like I said, Tap Out. Obviously, they're now more on the pro wrestling side, being a part of WWE and whatnot, but the point still stands. It's not Monster Energy drink. It's not this and that. It's a blue chip company. It's part of a bigger a brand that owns a conglomerate, blah blah blah. But it's a 500 Fortune 500 company. in regards to the company that owns Perk Plus.
How did it all get started? That's the real question. Who went where? Obviously, the hair thing is obviously the synergy and the one piece of the domino that makes things fall. But how did it all start? I mean, did you reach out? Did your people reach out? Did someone come up with the idea saying, hey, you know what? It turned into a joke, and now it's like, hey, whoa, we can do this.
It exactly what happened. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. It's Shanda, formerly with the UFC. I was basically in Vegas, and we were giving a ticket giveaway, and I basically did a hair kind of brush thing where, like, you know, my man bun, I took it out and I waved it in all of its glory. And she did it in slow-mo, and she put it out there, and they find Elias in his hair. And then someone, I think, basically was like, hey, you should get a hair sponsorship or whatever. And then Shanda actually reached out to a whole bunch of different companies, but Perk Plus was the original one that I wanted to work with. Again, they're a company that's been around for 30 years. I remember them from the original 2-in-1 days. For those of you that remember the karate twins and whatnot. So it has a full coming of circle if you want in regards to Perk Plus being a fixture in regards to my hair care for years, and also the fact that again they're karate based. If you look at it, that was one fixtures, and now they've had the full mixed martial arts, having yours truly be the brand ambassador or the hair ambassador.
Well, the hair ambassador. I'm just going to say the hair ambassador. In terms of the actual deal itself, because obviously you and I, you know, we can bring in some comparisons now with George St. Pierre and all the different mainstream sponsors he was able to bring to the table, who were basically, you know, probably looking at mixed martial arts and saying, I don't know, but now it's totally different. He's paving the way for guys like yourself to get these blue chip sponsors. In terms of what Perk Plus, in terms of what Perk Plus and your relationship with them, what is the future going to happen? Is there going to be commercials? Is it a global thing? Is it a Canadian thing? Is it a North American thing?
It's actually a US thing.
Oh, wow.
It's actually a USA thing. What's it called? I actually made the deal with US first, and now Canada. There's 3 different markets, main markets for Perk. It's the US, Canada, and Australia. So fancy that. I got America first. Canada has already approached me, and who won Canada versus Australia? And we're about to be world ambassador pretty damn soon. And when I say, again, I don't want to brag, but I'm very excited because honestly, I'm at the doorstep of making more money being a hair model than being a professional puncher and kicker. And that has to do with more, again, that's not a slight of mixed martial arts. It is the reason why I've gotten the notoriety, why I've gotten the position that I am. And endorsements ring true like that.
I'm just checking my schedule. You did mention Australia as a potential. Do I need to book something here, or?
Well, everything's just starting off with in regards to Perk, but the other beautiful aspect, Melbourne, it actually has the 3rd largest Greek population outside of Greece. So I also have Toronto, Montreal, and now Melbourne, where I have fixtures in regards to opportunities to, again, be a brand ambassador.
Everything you just had me at Australia. So when you're ready to go,
yes.
I'm in. Let's talk about someone who's not from Australia, but from way far away from us in Korea, in the Korean Zombie, who competed this past weekend, taking on Dennis Bermudez. And I learned something, you know, sometimes, you know, I wrote an article for Fightful MMA, Elias, and Tuesdays to me is a fantastic day in the week of mixed martial arts, because it's that one day where, you know, the UFC starts pumping up their Wednesday, using Wednesday as beginning to kick off their fight week leading up to a Saturday event, whereas Monday we're still sort of kind of recovering from what happened on Saturday/Sunday. Tuesday is the day I call it the MMA coffee day. I can sit back, I can relax, and really dissect what just happened on Saturday before getting ready for what's about to happen next Saturday. What I learned with Korean Zombie is this whole cage rust, wait a second. We need to look at this a little further, because the reality is, and it might be stating the obvious, ring rust and cage rust really only takes place after a few rounds. It doesn't happen in the first round. Your timing could be off because he was getting tagged. Your distance could be off because he was getting hit, but you still got that power, and that speed is still there. So we need to reevaluate cage rust and ring rust, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. This is hey, Hey, first question, and we agree. This is a good podcast already. It's always a great podcast. But I would agree with you 110%. I think it comes down to it's all mental. Again, not the better fighter doesn't always win. In many ways, it has to do with who's better on game day. And I think the Korean Zombie showed up, even with the 3+ years that was away from. He was away, obviously, for service. It obviously was in his mind. He was probably counting down every single day. He's coming off of a dislocation in his actual shoulder blade with Aldo in his last fight. So one, he got to heal. He's now presumably 100%. And two, when you come back after 3.5 years, you really want it. And another outlier again is obviously Dominic Cruz, who showed that in many ways ring rust is all here.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So Dominic Cruz, Korean Zombie, Freddie Assunção with Titan. It continues to sort of open my mind, and I love it. It's not that I felt like I was wrong, because I don't feel like I was wrong. I thought cage rust and ring rust is definitely real, but it's real a little bit later on in the fight. Now, when he was getting tagged, I was like, oh boy, you're getting hurt, but you are the Korean Zombie. You have some sort of asphalt in your chin, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's tough to
say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. In regards to an example where it would counter the balance of it, but that there's outside factors. We talked about Chael Sonnen being, again, older, Mexican supplements no longer being an option, and other facts in regards to the hype and being in a new scene, being in a new organization. I think there was part mental. He even acknowledged it himself. Deer caught in a headlight. And it doesn't help when you're fighting a bigger, stronger opponent like Theodorou Ortiz. Even with the broken necks that he's had over the years, he's still a shit-hit brick house. And being that his final fight, he obviously wanted to win and won so by some kind of crank.
Yes, I was going to say crank. Speaking of quote-unquote Mexican supplements, I'm actually, believe it or not, I've got a vacation coming up with the family. It's the first in a very long time, and we're going to Mexico. Is there anything I should know before I get down there?
No. Basically, the term itself, if I'm going to give it credit where credit due, it comes from Joe Rogan is the one that kind of says it the most. In many ways, I believe it's more on the lax medical that they have in general in Mexico, and it just basically means tainted, but in a purposeful way.
Understood. Well, I'll kind of curb myself and be careful whatever I eat down there and whatever I ingest down there, because as you know, you and I talk. What's that? Sorry.
No. Sorry to interrupt again, but in all truth be told, USADA does warn us about different places all over the world where they do have horrible guidelines in regards to food, and they pump their animals full of steroids, and you actually will test positive. China being one of them, I think Mexico being one of them. You actually have to be careful of where you eat. China, I know for sure. They actually pump it through. They pump it full of different pharmaceuticals, different. Even America has certain things that we don't do in regards to their estrogen in regards to milk. Again, we live in a beautiful country called Canada, which has very strict guidelines. I think regulations when it comes to our food and safety is a very important thing. Whether in regards to let's say economic and the free market, sure there is some, there is some room to work on, but I think in regards to our safety, you can't really trust companies that want more bottom line rather than our actual our number one being their number one priority, our safety being their number one priority. But in all seriousness, going back to it, China, different places all over the world, USADA warns us about don't eat the fucking meat because you don't know what's in there.
So, okay, let's just stop the card here for a second. Is this something that they tell you in terms of like a PDF file, an email? Is it something on their site?
Yep, a little bit of everything in between. There's notifications. There's no this. There's that. They're very up to date. They tell you. And again, right after my fight, I think like the Monday, there's it's optional, but they're going to tell you all about all the different guidelines and all the this and all of that. They're going to go through a whole tutorial about a live tutorial that everyone can chime into. It's going to be a free streaming, basically live event, kind of like what we're doing here, but it's going to be more one way where they talk to us. And I don't know if they're going to have questions. I don't know, but you have to sign up, blah, 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 blah. And you have to do your due diligence. I'm responsible of what's in my body. So I am going to take advantage. Even though my sponsor, HPN, they're again safe for sport. They have the label. They have a guarantee. I still, in many ways, I'm still responsible for what I put into it. I know even though again, they are the exception of the rule, especially in the States. They're a U.S. company because in many ways, America is the Wild West in regards to supplements. The FDA basically fought. The supplement industry fought tooth and nail to make sure that they're not considered medicine, and they kind of fall in this in between of food and medicine, where it's a supplement, it's its own kind of bracket, and they don't actually have to adhere to the same rules and regulations. They have a proprietary blend. Fear any company that says proprietary blend. Again, I have a company that I believe in, that I rely on to be part of basically the building blocks in regards to me being a clean sport, a clean athlete, rather.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you've been a proponent of this forever, only because I've known you long before you got onto the Ultimate Fighter, long before you got in the UFC. And we actually talked about this, I think, at the Fight Network party, amongst other things that we can't bring up on this podcast. But yeah. When you get these types of advisories and you do so much traveling, now it is North America, it is the States, it is Canada, but you could be going to Melbourne, you could be going to so many different places. Does it make you nervous when you see some of these things and you may realize, you know what, my favorite food is, I don't know, steak, and now I can't have steak because I'm going to this country? Or is like, you know what, I'm only here for a week or two and it's going to be fish and chicken? Or you know what, if I got to be a vegetarian for this trip, I'll be a vegetarian.
Shameless plug. I want to thank Fuel Food for always making sure that I have nothing but the best, safest, and delicious meals to go. And obviously, they're a Canadian brand, specifically Toronto, meal delivery system, to the service rather. And I just, again, for Fight Camp, obviously me being their athlete, they ship it to me, and I can make the exception of the rule. I have great brands that I work with. I work with nothing but the best, and I make sure, again, it's my due diligence. I'm on the road. I'm in training camp. I'm eating proper. Everyone else was eating, after the different demonstrations that I did, they had, some good, some bad in regards to protein bars or whatever like that. They had sugary drinks, but they had non-sugary drinks. But I stick to my water, and I stick to my Fuel Foods. Shameless plug. But no, the important thing is, again, it's up to you. Due diligence. I'm an athlete, and in many ways, I have nothing to hide. So that, I think that's one of the things that I think my saving grace is the idea that when you have nothing to hide, and you do your due diligence, you accept. Again, I welcome all the random drug testing. I welcome the steps. Then somewhat the hassle. I get random people showing up at my door at the most random times, and I encourage it, and I accept it, and I love it, because
you got to give us an example. You got to give us an example.
Oh yes, no, New York, from my camp, getting ready for Thiago Santos. It was a confusion because I switched. What's it called? I basically had both my Canadian and my New York house or New York rental kind of on the limp. So they went to my Canadian house. They're like, hey, this is when it was just starting. They're like, hey, we went there and you weren't there. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm here. I put it in. I must not have deleted the old one. It's new to me. They're like, okay, we'll give you this one, because it was the first 30 days of basically the drug testing. They're like, not a problem. We're gonna figure it out another time. We won't give you a strike this time. I'm like, thank you. Flash forward another week later, I'm in New York, and again, this is a whole an Airbnb that I'm renting. The door actually at the bottom was locked, right? There was 2 doors to get in there. You had to unlock the first door to walk up to the apartment that I was renting. So I'm pretty sure at 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4:30, the gentleman climbed through the fire escape.
Come on.
Climbed up the fire escape to go to the main entrance, smashing on the door. Wake up, wake up, wake up. And I'm thinking it's the cops. It's 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. And I open the door. I do the drug test, everything. By the time he announces who he is, I'm like, "I'll come in." And I do the whole actual piss tests and blood tests or whatever like that. And it's only after I do it that I look down and I realize I'm actually wearing a free Nick Diaz t-shirt.
That's amazing.
So I didn't even realize I was wearing a free Nick Diaz t-shirt while I'm actually doing a drug test.
Did he notice it? Did he say anything? Did the person realize what the shirt was about?
I don't think he even realized what that was. He doesn't know. It wasn't because, again, they're not there for mixed martial arts. They're there in general for they do all athletes. So I don't think he was too. He was kind of like, pretty new in regards to everything I was telling him for mixed martial arts, like talking about different gyms and blah blah blah, and kind of giving him the lay of the land and stuff like that. I'm like, who you kind of have to watch out for, you know what I mean? But again, if you have nothing to hide, it's not. But what I was gonna say was the irony of just wearing a free Nick Diaz t-shirt was just beautiful.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. So I guess lesson learned that when it comes to USADA, it doesn't matter where you are, they will show up there at any time. You need to be. It's not even a fact that you're sleeping. It's if they come knocking.
Nope.
You gotta put
answer.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
You gotta pee. Well, you gotta wake up and flash your piece and take a pee right in the morning. So it's very, it could be a very, I don't want to say mood killer, but it could be like, very stage fright enforced when you have to, because they have to make sure it's not a rubber. Again, a couple people with a couple fake dicks ruined it for all of us. So they gotta just watch you pee and see everything.
And this just got extremely disturbing. All right then.
Or perfect.
So I just keep setting you up for these things.
You asked for a story.
We'll get more from you. We will definitely get more from you at another time. I don't even want to get into the fact, because I'm trying to just segue over to the ladies that were in the co-main event. And some way, somehow, I'm pretty sure you're going to give me some USADA story that you may have heard from Felice Herrig or Alexa Grasso or some other mixed martial artists on the UFC roster. I kind of don't want to hear it, to be honest with you, Elias.
Then I won't tell you about it. Or the fact that I could tell you about what human growth hormone and steroids do to the female anatomy when on it. I digress on that.
Well, no, not necessarily, because I've been reading a lot on HGH and just what it does to the human body in general. I think it is sort of. Well, listen, there's going to be athletes, Elias, as you know, that are going to try and do whatever they can to get the upper hand in their competition, including females that are like, you know what, I'm of being in the top 10, top 5, and the only way I'm going to beat Johanna Jędrzejczyk, or the only way I'm going to beat, it could be anybody. It could be Amanda Nunes. It could be Cyborg. And, it could be, if I'm going to beat this person, I've got to take this. This is what's going to get me over the edge. So, I mean, what have you seen? What have you read? What have you heard in terms of that type of research? Because to me, when I read it, it scares me.
Well, yes, but it's also because, again, when they're doing it from, getting it from a friend out of a gym and not your doctor, it's a little different in Florida, where it might be a little bit more prevalent with all the aging clinics.
No comment.
Pointing no fingers.
Go ahead.
But the important thing to say is it actually basically puts you through puberty all over again. That's where the acne comes from. That's where people's heads start growing, because your pituitary gland is constantly creating more and more chemicals, more and more process of being a teenager again. You're getting hair where you didn't get hair. And it, for men, it shrinks their testicles because your body doesn't need to make the testosterone. for women, it what's it called, enlarges your clitoris, and basically creates a very long clitoris because just the way it protrudes in regards to your body. Again, if you're putting excess, your body eventually is like, hey, we don't need to do this anymore, and it just allows this new aspect to change.
I've never listen. I don't claim, because obviously I know people not in the MMA industry, but that guys that just they live for it. They cycle, they love it. They're absolutely massive.
Yep.
They're ripped. You see them on like, dude, congratulations. But I know that's not natural. You and I both know it's not natural. So good for you. And I just can't understand why people would want to put that in their body, effectively shutting down the natural system of the development and the building of testosterone. I don't get it.
Well, yes, I can totally get it. One, for the what it does, it works. Let's be real, it works. That's the reason why people are doing it. And especially when you get to a certain age, your body naturally, your endocrine systems basically shut down. So if your body's not building the testosterone, why wouldn't you use technology to do that? When I'm 50, when I'm 60, I will probably be completely on it with, again, a regulated, doctor-approved,
Just a regimen, like a TRT regimen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's different. That's different. But if you're getting off somebody in a goddamn gym locker room, you're obviously going to have some repercussions. And one of my coaches, like, again, Lachlan, who's been one of my coaches from the beginning, he always said, if he said the mental aspect, if you can't get through the regional circuit without some type of performance enhancing drug, you're not mentally going to be ready for the big leagues. If you can't be Joe Schmo, I'm using the example, obviously, Joe Schmo, which is basically the example of the idea of someone in the regional scene, then you're not going to be able to beat Anderson Silva. You're not going to be able to beat a Chris Weidman, who's at that highest level, and again, who's mentally strong. Chris Weidman specifically, who I know is 100% clean and is another advocate of a clean sport and has nothing to hide. So if you can't beat some dude that you are going to fight in the regionals, your fourth fight out, how are you going to be mentally prepared or physically prepared to beat the top echelons? So again, I definitely fought some people that were on, I think, performance enhancing drugs throughout my career. And I honestly use that as a mental advantage, because I know that if they rely on something, I need to break them. Because if they can't do it naturally, and I can, they're in a world for hurt because I keep on going and they don't.
Okay, so that's a valid point, and I've had this conversation before with numerous fighters. Actually, Sean Pearson is one of them. George St. Pierre being another. You being another. Some guys in the States. Dominic Cruz was one. Uriah Faber was another. I always ask, because the one thing that I'm that guy that gives people the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe that anyone cheats, when in reality, tons of people cheat. Right?
Most.
Most. And that's the truth. People tell me it's most. And even if it's not HGH, even if it's not steroids, even if it's not performance enhancing drugs, the big huge TRT thing, I gave the benefit of the doubt. What's that?
Yep. It's something in between.
Yeah. Now,
there are other things on the ban list.
So I ask you this, and I had this conversation with Faraz, who kind of gave me Faraz Zahabi, who kind of gave me his sort of answer. Do you have your own sort of eyeball test that when you look at someone, you're like, but not the obvious. Yep. Now, when I say not the obvious, because GSP had told me one time, as well as Faraz, they had pointed out a few people, and I was like, no. Well, lo and behold, guess whose careers have changed since USADA? Guess who have been caught courtesy of USADA? And I just looked at George, and I'll be texting or Faraz, and I'm like, you were right. The eyeball test worked.
You weren't wrong. Mm-hmm. Well, and like we hinted about it earlier, camps too. There's also certain camps that are renowned, without pointing names. I know different camps that in many ways used to joke around about, having their own labels on them back in the day. So again, I think there is a whole culture that was around before mixed martial arts became a a full sport, because before there's any money, it's all about bragging rights. It's all about honor, and you're going to try and get to victory any way you can, because it's the Wild West. If you are pretty much guaranteed in some place like we talked about last time, Japan, where in many ways it's still the Wild West. Love Japan, still the Wild West. Mixed martial arts. If you're about 60% sure your opponent is, why the hell wouldn't you? Vanderlei Silva took one look at Mirko Cro Cop. I'm injured. Because someone else needs to have, anything you can do, I should do bigger.
I'm not in any certain way going to Yes, no, I'm not. I'm not going to argue that point, only because I know of characters that you and I have mentioned on this podcast before. Certain gentlemen who realized that once they had an opponent change, realized who their opponent change was, and literally just went, stabbed themselves, and went, "I'll be ready." And the next day, USADA showed up.
Ooh, it's not a good look.
I'll let people sort of do the math there. You talk about a Mexican supplement cocktail. Whoo-wee. Career killer. All right, let's move. Let's quickly go through what happened in UFC Houston. Felice Herrig, clearly, Elias, did not get the memo that she was supposed to be a stepping stone for Alexa Grasso, who was supposed to be continuing her ascension up the rankings, and Felice Herrig was supposed to be someone that was supposed to take a beating. Felice never got that memo. Are you surprised?
No, she's a veteran for a reason. She's been in the UFC. She's been a part of Invicta. She's been a part of different kickboxing around the world. Again, she has the tenacity, she has the technique, and she has the ability to beat anyone, I think, in that division for the most part. She's had her good days. She's had her bad. But she still has fight. And I think if the day you think you're going to beat someone, you better beat them. And when you lose by a decision, in many ways, it's a learning lesson. And obviously, as someone who has this, I think it's a split decision or decision, whatever, lost his own right. And I think I very much did grow from it. And even when I think I am a much better fighter, well-rounded fighter than my opponent, Cesar Ferreira, but I'm not going to in any way look past his athleticism, his tenacity, and his hunger. He has, I think, 2 or 3 kids that he's putting food on their table, and that is a form of hunger that I don't know. I have a great girlfriend, but me and her are very what's the word I'm looking for? We're very much in our, us selfish phase in regards to, we get to, after my fight, we're going to go to LA. She's going to come with me to LA when I do something. And then we're going to go somewhere warm. And then I'm going to go travel, do something for Hard Knocks again. And then I have something else or whatever. So again, and I'm in New York. I have no real commitments other than, I'll give her a phone call tonight and maybe do a little Skype, just like we're doing right now, Joe. Isn't it beautiful? We keep in touch every single week. Every Tuesday, we Skype date. It's so beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pretend the last 30 seconds of his answer never took place. Okay. If it's
video proof.
Oh, this is going to have to be edited.
No, it's
if
not.
It's not Sean Anderson ripping me, it's Elias putting me in these predicaments, ladies and gentlemen. This is why I love my boys. This is why I love my guys. These guys, they know how to take things so perfectly and then hammer me one way or another.
Exactly, rhythm. But no, the point being said, and these tips don't lie, Joe. Maybe next Tuesday you'll find out. No, we have to wait for post-fight.
Yes, absolutely.
Post-fight.
Quick question for you regarding you mentioned Hard Knocks. You've been to Hard Knocks. You've been and seen. You competed in the grassroots scene. You've competed. You've been around. You've done commentary. You've seen so many mixed martial artists outside of the UFC. And I'm bringing this up because Volkan Oezdemir came out of nowhere. He comes into the, he was supposed to fight in Titan. We all know the story. Just before the weigh-ins, he gets plucked, he gets pulled. He's got 2 weeks notice to prepare for OSP. Now, OSP is taking some flack for his performance, and people are saying that fight could have gone either way. What I'm trying to get at is you got a guy like Volkan Oezdemir. To me, is proof positive that outside of the UFC, and this is no slight towards you, by the way, but outside of the UFC, there's a lot of good talent that can come in and wreak havoc in every single division.
For sure. And especially if you set no slight against him, set the bar low and you overachieve. And the idea that if it's this person that's coming out of nowhere under the radar and you expect certain things, just like the Felicia Heron example. If you expect something, when it doesn't happen, you're like, wait, what just happened? It's a fight. Anything can happen. And 2 people go in and only one will get their hand raised. And it's not always who you expect it to be. We've seen many different situations where that's been. And that's the beauty of mixed martial arts.
So I talk about the lessons learned from this UFC Houston show. One of the things I learned was courtesy of the Tiny Tornado, Tisha Torres, who, I just absolutely adore, absolutely love. The first time I met her, I melted, because literally I went from Tisha Torres. This is when they introduced the cast of The Ultimate Fighter. I interviewed her and I melted. I'm like, what a sweetheart. And lo and behold, I turn around and there's Beck Rawlings that I've got to interview now. And she's an even bigger sweetheart. So these two competing once again kind of breaks my heart, but it is what it is. Tisha Torres heading into this fight basically stated she had 1 foot out the door. She said she was done. She wasn't going to compete again. Well, clearly she did a fantastic job in earning this unanimous decision, and then states afterwards, I'm ready to fight. I want to continue fighting. And I was like, oh my God, you just totally played a mind game on me.
Fair enough. And well, that's the thing. It's probably a mind game for her. Think about where her mindset is. Nothing's better than having your hand raised. And if you've kind of missed that in the last couple of outings, I can understand that. If I was to have, let's say, if I was to have lost Sam Alvey in an even more devastating fashion than I lost to Thiago Santos, who knows where I would have been. Again, especially as someone like myself that has more options than most, I think I could put equally as much effort into something else and be successful in it. But my passion is mixed martial arts. I think Tisha getting her hand raised, she realized her passion is mixed martial arts.
Awesome. She's getting her degree. I want to wish her the best. She's almost done, I believe, in getting her degree. I want to ask you a quick question. You talk about...
if I have my degree? Yes, I do have my degree. Bachelor of Arts, if that's what you're asking. What's called Bachelor of Arts in Creative Advertising, because I'm developing the brand that is myself. Snaps.
Oh, my God. He won't even let me segue, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to segue using his answer. This is what you call an experienced broadcaster feeding off the answer and moving on to the next thing. He killed it. He just kills my segues. That's what this is going to be called, Killing Joe Segues podcast. How's that? Is that fair?
I was going to say something else.
Don't. I want to feed off the answer, though. Let me feed off the answer for a moment, because what you mentioned was, there could have been a difference when you fought Sam Alvey. Takes me to the Curtis Blades fight against Adam Milstead. That guy's knee was disgusting. Okay, heading into that corner or in between rounds, the first and second round, you could see that knee was just
holding it.
Yep. Yeah,
he was holding it the whole way time.
So we're talking about corners, and obviously you mentioned Lachlan. You mentioned your corners, the guys that help you ready for fights, and the people that are behind you that are there going to war with you. George always tells me these are the people that I need to go to war with me. I don't want my family there. Okay. How much is it? And Sean Ross Sapp told me yesterday it's case by case basis, and I get it. But how much is it incumbent on the corners to really realize? Look, I know you know your fighter. I know your fighter's got a ton of heart, but there's going to be times when if you just let it go, I know it's going to affect their paycheck and it's going to be a loss in that column, but you're saving them for a future fight. How much of it do you have that relationship with your corner? Do you trust your corner and say, you know what, guys, if I'm in pain, if I'm hurt, you got to stop this fight? Or, sometimes it's better that you do it because I won't. Does that conversation ever take place?
Yes and no. I think in many ways we're with all my coaches, whether it's going to be my corners that are going to be in the fight, Chad Pearson, Kruash, Faraz, whoever, those three are going to be. Let's say for this specific fight, they know me. They know basically my ability and whether I am physically able to fight or not. I think it really is a case by case basis. It really depends. If you have someone like BJ Penn, whose brother threw in the towel in many ways, he had nothing left in him, kind of thing. You gotta put the fighter's best interest ahead of their own interest in general.
That's the problem. You guys, your hearts are so big. Sometimes it can't be trusted. I'm not gonna lie to you. I sit there. I'm guilty because I get, obviously in terms of knowing fighters on a personal level, you then have that connection where you're kind of like, I'm thinking about, your family, your whether you have kids or not, and I could see your girlfriend over there, I can see your wife over there, and I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to be good. But it is what it is. Let's move on to this Saturday's pay-per-view. A couple of guys competing in your division. We'll get to those momentarily. But kicking off that pay-per-view, to my understanding, is Dustin Poirier taking on Jim Miller. I love this fight. I want to know if Dustin Poirier can figure out Jim Miller in 15 minutes, because Jim Miller is going to show up there with his lunch pail, his hard hat, and he's going to push Dustin Poirier to the brink. That's
exactly right. We're talking about tough fighters, and Miller is definitely one of those. But Dustin, again, it's one of those things where obviously he did get smoked by Michael in his last showing. Anything can happen, but he was, prior to that, I think, on a 3-fight win streak. So I've been following him, whether it's him or I can't brain fart right now. Oh my god. Either way, I've been following Dustin. He seems like he's motivated. He has a baby on the way, or a baby that just came. He obviously motivated for that. So again, a loss. He's been in horrible losses before. One can look at the McGregor fight, which was even bigger of a platform in regards to losing against McGregor, and he came back to go on a 3-fight win streak. So this is, I think both fighters have a great shot of winning. Obviously, Miller has the more grind out, take him to task and take him all 15 minutes, where Dustin has heavy hands and can bang.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this fight. Like I said, just to see if Dustin can figure him out, and if Jim Miller just puts a hurting on him. Either way, it's going to be fantastic. Now, speaking of guys who had a hurting put on them, Glover Teixeira is now returning for the first time since being uppercutted to sleep by Anthony Rebel Johnson. He's taking on Jared Cannonier, who's top 15 right now, because so many guys have been leaving this division. He's a tough guy. Glover Teixeira coming off that crazy knockout. What's your assessment of this one?
It's not a gimme fight. Let's not call it that, because again, in mixed martial arts, there are no easy fights. In many ways, there are two competitive individuals that are going to come at each other. But one would say the consensus is that Glover should win this fight. But is it the Glover of old entering, or is it the Glover of new? Is that a positive thing or a negative thing? It only Saturday will show. In many ways, it's all mental, and it really depends on who we both agree, probably, who the betting favorite is, hands down. But the big issue being, does Glover want it? Can Glover get it? And is a title run still in his rear mirror?
You're bang on. He is the betting favorite, but not by much. He's at -165 right now. But the guy that's really, really massive in terms of middleweights, in terms of, is Ronaldo Jacques. He's -500 over Tim Boetsch, who's the underdog at +400. I mean, Jacare, to me, obviously a dangerous man. I'll never forget, and I mentioned it yesterday with Sean Ross Sapp, that fight with Yoel Romero is one of the most underappreciated, underrated fights ever, because that was just a monstrosity, and it showed how tough Souza actually is. I'm not saying Tim Boetsch is in for a short night, but Souza is just an absolute animal. When he turns it on, it can get real ugly for Tim in a heartbeat.
Yes, but let's give the Barbarian his credit. He is the best at pulling off third-round glorious hammer slobber knocker victories. One has to
in
look
Japan.
At Yushin Okami. Yep. One has to look at Yushin Okami in Japan. Literally getting the shit kicked out of him for the better part of 12 minutes. And the last couple of minutes, yeah, I got this.
Oh yeah, and it's listen, Sean Ross Sapp said the same thing yesterday. Don't count out Tim Boetsch. I will never count out Tim Boetsch. I just look at this and think Ronaldo Souza is just a monster in my eyes. Now, one guy that used to be the greatest of all time, we can still make the argument is the greatest of all time. Anderson Silva, he's a plus 130 underdog against Derek Brunson. I never thought I would ever hear that day or kind of get to that point where we would see Anderson Silva as the underdog, but Anderson Silva potentially emerging victorious on Saturday night will throw a curveball in your division because people always want him to continue to do great and not sort of fall off this apex that he was on. Your thoughts on what's expected between him and Derek Brunson on Saturday night?
Well, I'm flabbergasted. I didn't know he was the underdog. That's probably the first time in over a decade he has been the underdog. Wow. Father Time, you can't beat him. You can't beat Father Time. That's my basically analysis. Obviously, I still think technique is so much on Anderson's side. One has to look at Brunson's last fight with Whitaker, where there are some some huge holes. Obviously, he's an explosive, powerful person that will take your head off if he can. But just the difference in regards to skill. Anderson, even when he loses, for some reason, he not a scratch on him, and you're destroyed. Like Michael Bisping won. I think he won. But yet his face looked like a pizza. And Anderson is somehow, not a scratch on him. So Derek is not in for an easy night. I think consensus would say first round, Derek has the best opportunity to win. Anderson's chin has been a little iffy as of late. He's been knocked down a bunch of times. Even in the Bisping fight, he was knocked down. Even in, obviously, we look at the Weidman fights. So I think Anderson could lose. That's a actual fact we're going to have to start grasping with. He says he's game, but at the same time, he has not won a fight, I think, in 5 fights.
It's been a while. It's been a while. All right, let's segue over to the main event here. It's sort of a weird one because Holly Holm coming off 2 losses. Germaine Randy, she hasn't competed. Well, she's competed, but it's just a weird scenario considering this division is basically Cyborg's division.
Default.
Yes, yeah, but unfortunately, Cyborg has this another sort of situation with a drug test, with USADA informing her of a violation and not being able to. It's just a weird sort of story. So right now, fighting for that featherweight strap will be Holm. Dirandami, how do you break this one down?
The Iron Lady's a tough girl. She is a savage. She is known for beating the crap out of dudes. And again, this is I wouldn't be surprised if Holly starts trying to take her down, in the sense that that's where she's had difficult times in regards to mixed martial arts, and the idea that she's not necessarily a complete martial artist. She's obviously more of a kickboxer, more of a Muay Thai fighter. So I think Holly is more of a counter fighter, more of the angles, but the Iron Lady can drop some iron and finish Holly possibly.
Bottom line, is this for Cyborg? Because when Cyborg finally gets a hold of this person, it could be a different story altogether. Or this person could be an absolute superstar if they win and take out Cyborg as well.
Or Amanda Nunes coming in for being champ. Who knows? Champ.
Good point.
You want to really bolster up Amanda Nunes' opportunity as the new queen, darling of MMA, female MMA, if you want, if to take in what Ronda did and run with it. Amanda Nunes can punch hard. She's a black belt. She's a judo brown belt as well. She's a savage, and she has the makings of a potential champion. Well, she already is a champion, but could make history and be the first female champ. And,
fantastic. Yep.
And actually defend them.
Hopefully. I mean, two
No,
division
but that, I mean,
champs. Because you got to be able to defend it.
That's more. Well, McGregor.
Yeah.
Not so much.
You hear about this McGregor versus Anderson Silva talk now?
Well, that rumbled a while ago. But if that's Anderson, I think just kind of talking. I think McGregor has his sights on someone else, someone who is considered still the greatest of all time in a different sport, and that is Mayweather. And I think, hey, told anything, but I really think that is the direction where McGregor's going. At the very least, he has all the chips, all the bargaining chips, and whether it's the case of they go do it somewhere in a different country and then pay the fine of the hundreds of millions of billions of dollars they'll make to the UFC and say, oops, my bad, I just made $100 million. Here's 10 in fines. Oops. I think that's the directions. McGregor literally has all the chips. I know that's not the questions you asked. I know we digressed from what it is. Whatever McGregor wants to do, McGregor's going to do.
I'm going to end it on that. I think it's fantastic. I think it's something we could touch on at another time, but I like that.
Ooh.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit last week. You did it again this week. I like it. Before I let you go, though, because I know we're running out of time here, anything else you want to say to the peeps other than Perk Plus, Fuel Foods, was it H Nutrition or whatever it was? But keep going. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
High performance nutrition, rather. Again, follow me at Elias Theodorou, both on Instagram, Twitter, Elias the Spartan Theodorou. On Facebook, I'm very easy to find. The GOAT on Twitter. I'll be live tweeting this event and adding my Spartan flavor. That's me doing the Spice Bay, the little Spartan flavor. And thank everyone for following my journey. And I'm really excited to get closer to my event. After we have this main event, we're gonna have the MANE event. The main event.
I was so waiting for you to call it the main event. Good job, buddy. Good job. Listen, thank you very much. We want to make sure that you do come home safe and sound. Are you coming back to Toronto after New York?
No, I'm going right back to TriStar and finishing out camp until the following Wednesday or whatever it is that I go for fight week, and then we rolling, baby.
I don't know if you're paying attention to your weather app. It is brutal here in Toronto, and we all know that weather travels eastward. Please be careful. It is. We're expecting. I think we've got tons of for all you American fans living in the South. Oh, you guys have no idea what we go through here in February.
Even New York, it's beautiful here. It's beautiful comparison. I think it's like -2, -1.
Oh, it's an ice rink outside, my friend. It's an ice rink, and it's just going to continue this way. So,
look at this beautiful. Like again, I got New York to deal with.
Tough gig.
Somebody's got to do it, my friend.
Good for you. Very proud of you. You know me. I'm not the jealous type. I'm not the envious type, but I do live through you. I want to thank you again. I know we've gone past what you and I were supposed to go over, but I want to thank you. You know, we had to readjust this, but as always, thank you. And, like I said, follow Elias on social media. It's absolutely fantastic. Some of the stuff he does, some of the pre-fight physio that Lachlan talks about that we got to see, some crazy, weird pictures that could be disturbing, but it's Elias, guys. What do you want from me? Elias, again, thank you, my friend.
My pleasure, Joe.
There you go. Make sure you guys follow Elias online at Elias Theodorou. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in. Those that have tuned in live, and to those that are tuning in afterwards, we do go up on Stitcher, we go up on iTunes, FightfulMMA.com for all your product. Follow yours truly at Showdown Joe. Tomorrow it will be Sean Pearson and I, and parental advisory in full effect. Until then, thank you very much for tuning in.